What does it take to wait 3 years for your moment and never give up on your dreams? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most inspiring quarterback stories in recent Alabama football history. A journey of patience, faith, and unwavering determination that culminates in a dream finally coming true. If you love stories about perseverance and the inner workings of championship programs, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell, because we're about to take you inside the mind of Alabama's newest starting quarterback. So has it sunk in yet? How does it feel to be the starting quarterback of the Crimson Tide? Yeah, it's a dream come true. I came here out of high school wanting to be the starting quarterback, and I'm just excited, and I can't, thank my teammates enough for making me look good, and I'm ready for the opportunity. How happy are you that you sat back for 3 years, sat as a backup? How happy are you now that you made the decision to stay with Alabama? Yeah, I think it's abnormal for sure to, not transfer in today's day and age, but, I don't regret it all. I love being here. I love my teammates. I love this university, and I learned a lot from the guys that played before me like Bryce and Jalen. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And then the guys behind me like Keelan and Austin. I think that they pushed me and elevated my game to a game that it's, never seen before. So, we're going to continue to grow each and every day as a quarterback room, as a group, and I'm excited about it. Tell us about the moment finding out and what that was like. Yeah, so, we had a quarterback meeting, and it was just us three, and then Grubb, Coach Sheridan, and Coach Debor were in there, and, they were just like, guys, hey, we're going to name Tyler starter today. And, it went from there, and they were really appreciative of me and congratulated me. Austin and Keen did, and they just told me to go get it. And like I said, I can't thank those guys enough, because I wouldn't be here if they didn't push me every single day. Was it in that moment? It was surreal for sure. Something I've dreamed about, since I came here, but, I'm not going to sit here and say nothing I didn't expect. I feel like I worked my tail off for it, and I'm just excited for the opportunity to go out there with my guys and compete each and every day. How's the relationship been like with you and Coach Grubb? How do you feel like you've been flourishing underneath him? Yeah, that's my guy, man. He came in here, and, I knew him a little bit when he first got here back last year, but, the whole Seahawks thing happened, but when he came back, man, he's been so great. I've learned so much ball from him and Coach Sheridan, and they've just been in unison when it comes to everything, to the detail, the routes to the run match, or whatever. And, I learned a lot of ball from those guys. And so I feel like that helps me as a quarterback, being a coach's son, and just, trying to make sure that I put the team in the best position to win. How much has it helped you that, or held you back, that you've been dealing with a different offensive coordinator every single year since you've been here? Yeah, I wouldn't say it held me back at all. I think about the guys when I first got here. I had Bill O'Brien, I had Alex Morton's son, who's a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator at UAB. And then Derek Doley, learned a ton of ball from those guys, and Bryce. And then, Tommy Reese, John McNally, and then Coach Doley was there my second year. I learned a different type of offense and learned just different types of schemes or whatever. And then, my third year, I have Coach DeBoard and Coach Sheridan, and then Coach Grubb this year. And, I don't feel like it's something bad at all. I've learned a lot of stuff from those guys and a lot of different stuff that I've taught. The other guys are like, hey, this is how we did in the past. Maybe that'll help you, read a certain type of way or whatever. So, I wouldn't say by any means it's hurt me. I think it's helped me by a lot. How is this quarterback battle different than the ones that it's different just because, one, I'm older, but, it just is a different type of group. Those guys have helped me a lot, and they were just great guys or whatever, Being older definitely helps, and, they push me every single day. So, I can't thank them enough. Were you more confident because of having gone through those similar experience? Yeah. No, I definitely feel like I have, just because I know what to expect, and I know, hey, the mistakes I did last time, I'm going to make sure I'm not going to do that again. And, just being older and confident, understanding like, hey, I'm just going to be the best I can every single day. And my teammates, man, they gave me a lot of confidence, just in and out every day, just making plays for me and blocking. I can't thank those guys enough. Ty, I imagine your phone's been blowing up a little bit in the past day or so. Who are some folks have you heard from? former teammates, different people that have really stood out to you. Yeah, Greg Maroy texted me, which is really cool. I really look up to him a lot. A bunch of my family, a bunch of my friends, a bunch of guys who transferred out have reached out. It means a lot because I'm a big, relationship person. I'm a people person. So, guys who left, I really try to connect with them in a lot of different ways. I may not understand why they left, but I just wanted them to know that they can always count on me and understand that I'll be there for them anything they need. And I think I take that into my game too. That, understand that like, hey, I'm going to be the best teammate I can be and make sure that I'm going to do everything I can to help our team win. Who was your first call or text when you found out? Definitely my family. My dad. And I think my mom and dad started crying or whatever, so it was surreal. So I called my dad later that night, and then I took a nap. So, did you call Book or did he call you? Yeah, so Book, I texted Book, and he called me, and he was like, I better be at the draft like you were with me. So, it'll be a fun year for sure. I'm excited to watch him play for the Cowboys. Ty, take me through Alabama's wide receiver. What have you seen this spring or this fall from that room? Guys like Isaiah and Ryan. Yeah, man, we got a bunch of stud, man. I'm really excited about that group. Got a transfer from Isaiah, who from Miami, who I knew, and in Nashville. Germ's coming off a big year, who I think he's going to have a better year. Even the same with Ryan. He's older now, bigger and stronger. Then you got guys like Derek Meadows, Latia Brooks, Rico Scott, who are stepping up in big ways. And then you got Koe. Adams and, Bach is, transferring from defense to offense. Man, those guys are doing a great job, and, they're really detailed in their routes, and Shep has done a great job just making sure that, even on pass plays that there are run plays that they're blocking and being selfless, man. So, I'm really excited about that group, and it's my job to get those, good players the ball. What are your process over the next couple weeks now that you've been named starter? Yeah, really nothing's going to change. I'm going to make sure I go through my process of, just being the best I can be. I got to make sure that my teammates can count on me and make sure they have confidence in me. And I'm going to make sure that I can, give us the best chance to win. And, whether that's handing the ball off 50 times or throwing it 50 times, I got to understand my job and make sure that I give us the best chance to win on Saturdays other than being just simply older. How do you feel you're a different quarterback than the last time you went through a competition like this? Yeah, I've talked to Coach Saban a lot. He always would tell me, don't worry about the outside noise. Don't worry about external factors. Don't worry about anybody else. Just be the best you can be, and I really didn't understand that when I was a young guy. I would always be worried about, somebody else or somebody at, a different type of school or whatever, be looking somewhere else and, be like, man, I could have played there or whatever. But, he always kept saying, just focus on yourself. Focus on the best you can be. And then, when Coach Deborah came, he talked about going 1-0 and, winners win because that's what winners do. And I had to sit back and, pray about it and just think to myself, like, man, like I got to do something. I can't keep going down this road of just, worrying and having anxiety or whatever. So, I sat back in my room one night and I was like, man, I'm just, I'm going to pray. I'm going to give everything I got to the Lord and just make sure I understand that, like, hey, that, I'm just going to be the best player, best Todd Simpson I could be. And I think, these last couple years, that's what I've really tried to do. Just make sure, like, hey, don't do anything fancy, man. Like, even though it's the University of Alabama, just play football and just be the best version of yourself you can be. So what stood out to you in those prayers, or what kind of revelations did you have in those moments? I remember my sophomore year when it happened, really. It was after spring scrimmage. I came in, I didn't really do a lot. I came in, I just started crying. I was just like, man, like, what was going on, man? Like, what? I just don't feel like it's not fun to me anymore. And my dad asked me, he was like, man, like, how's your faith doing? What are you doing to, make sure that, you give everything to trust in the Lord? And I had to sit back and I was like, man, like, you're right. Like, I'm more worried about how people perceive me in football than they do, how I walk in my faith and how I am as a person, man. So, football means a lot to me. Don't get me wrong. I make sure that I'm going to do everything because he's given me this platform and he's given me this opportunity. But no matter how many touchdowns I throw, no matter how many wins I have at the University of Alabama, I'm a Christian first, and I know that, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. You mentioned Coach Saban. Have you heard from him yet since no? But I can't wait to see him, though. I want to tell him thank you, and, he means a lot to me, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his guidance and everything he's done for me. What are some areas that with film study and meetings that you think you can still grow and develop? Yeah, I feel like I can still grow and develop every day of just understanding the offense better, understanding, defensive coordinators, and just understanding, hey, this is why we do it. So, I'm going to continue to grow with that and Coach Grubb, meet with Coach Sheridan or whatever, and just, make sure that, I understand why and, make sure that we give the best chance to win on Saturdays. We're going to spend a lot of time analyzing your game and looking at all these clips. How would you describe yourself as a quarterback? Yeah, man. I feel like I'm a dual threat guy. I can sit in the pocket or I can escape and make plays, but, I also, I think an underrated part of my game is that I'm going to do what it takes to win. So, I'm going to do the gritty stuff. I'm going to make sure, we get the first down when it's 4th and 3. You know what I mean? So, like I said, man, those guys make me look good in that locker room, with our wide receiver group, our running back group, our O-line, man. I'm so excited about these guys, man, and they make me look good. So I got to make sure that I give them everything I got. So that's what, I tell them every day that when I go in the huddle, like, man, I'm going to go hard for you today. Like, we talk about being unbreakable all the time. And the only way I'm unbreakable is if we're all unbreakable together as an offense and team. Last one, Ty. There's been a lot of talk about, gimme offense. Those 5-yard, 10-yard plays that coach says, should be complete there 100% of the time. What's kind of how has that been explained to you, especially with, the wide receiver room that you have? Like, how have they approached what they expect out of quarterback possession? Yeah, I think it's just make the easy one easy. We got, like you said earlier, man, we got a deep, wide receiver room, and then we got a deep running back room. And then we have the best defensive line in the country, man. So why would I make things harder than what they are? You know what I mean? So when the defense, makes me check the ball down, give the ball to space to DeJam Miller, get the ball in space to Ryan, get the ball in space to those guys. Like, just go let them work, man. It's not a hard game. We try to make it harder than what it is. Just take what they give you, get the first down, and then go from there. But, man, those guys do a really good job, and I'm excited for them, and I can't, wait to see how they do. If you're fascinated by the mental side of football and want to see more behind-the-scenes content from Alabama's program, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications because we're bringing you exclusive access to the stories that matter most in Crimson Tide football.